My name's Jeff Whittaker, and I'm running for Boone County School Board. That's Division One. That includes the three northern voter precincts in the city of Florence, and then it wraps around both sides of the airport and includes all of Hebron out to the river. I have an indirect reason for running for school board, and you all know I have a direct reason for running for school board. The indirect reason is I read what's going on around the world, specifically around the United States and other school districts. And some of the stuff you read about, it's horrific. What's happening to schools. I mean, there are schools around the country where 0 children are proficient in math, and that just seems, how could that even continue more than 1 year, and then let alone decades? I want to be that person that stands in the way and says, wait a minute, we can do better. And maybe we're doing okay in Boone County, but I think we could try and do a little hard, do a little more work. And then the direct reason you guys are aware of, and Vanessa and I have a granddaughter that's getting ready to do that 12-year journey through the Boone County school system, that I want to make sure she gets the best education she can. And hopefully by helping her, I help the other 20,000 kids in the school system. I think somebody on the board needs to have a little bit of a financial background. I do have a degree in business and accounting, so I think that would help. I would really like to see the school system go to a bid process for all the large expenses, and maybe spread those out over a 2 or 3 year period, so the bids aren't all going out every year, in December or November, whenever they go out. You could split out, maybe every 3 years we do liability insurance, and then every 2 years we'll do our computer maintenance, contracts and stuff like that. That way the administration's not swamped doing all the bid packages every year. This last school board meeting, that it definitely appeared that the discussions over the liability insurance, you could tell there was a lot of emotion, but I did not understand why there was emotion. But to be perfectly honest, I mean, the certain members were on the committee, certain of the board members were on the committee that discussed that. They proposed this insurance company that's going to save them like 250, 270,000. Don't quote me. It's somewhere, it's less than 300,000, but it's more than 200,000. And that sounded like decent money. But one of the members was pretty upset and felt like there was something missing to the discussion, but I never quite understood what that was. I think somebody with my background would help a lot on the board. Another thing, I'm finding out that things haven't changed much since I was in school. There's around 1,500 or so graduates every year coming out of the Boone County school system, plus or minus. Like it fluctuates a little bit, but only about half of those go to on to college. A normal human being would ask, well, what do the other half do? Well, they go get jobs, or they join the military, or they climb into their parents' basement, I guess. I don't know, but I think we need to do more for that half of the population. And I think apprenticeships, especially with that giant airstrip out in the middle of my voter district, the Cincinnati airport, there's got to be a need for aircraft mechanics, right? I could see an apprentice program out there, doing wonders. I mean, let's face it, if I'm making $25, $35, $40 an hour learning how to work on aircrafts, jet engines, that would make it a lot easier to find myself than going to a college somewhere and racking up $25, $35, $50,000 a year in student debt. So I think the other half of that population deserve all we can give them. And I see no reason why, businesses couldn't sign up to be offer apprenticeships. There had to be some kind of oversight. You couldn't just have the kid, washing cars and then signing off that he's an electrician. There's got to be some kind of oversight, but I think it's doable.
As far as the students, half of them attending college, what I'm hearing more and more of is that when these kids go off to college, that they're having to take remedial courses that don't count towards their degree. because they are not prepared. So even even though they say they're, well, these kids are in college. Well, yeah, they're in college, but that's costing parents a lot more money because their children aren't going in prepared for college. So I think that's something important to look at too. If we're sending our kids off to college, that they're prepared for that.
Yeah. Every one of those college classes that begin with 0 don't count towards graduation. 099, 098, it's got to be English 101 or above, baby, or, it doesn't count to your graduation. I know that's a shame. And, Boone County offers, dual credit, AP courses. There's there's opportunity out there, but my problem is you can see how things are going on a state level or a national level. They compare state to state. You can see those. You can look that up easy on the internet, but it's really hard to see at a local school level, how kids are doing in math, because that's the language of science, right? That's how scientists around the world communicate to each other. They use mathematics.
After watching several school board meetings, what are your thoughts of the board?
I honestly, I'd like to, take the Wonder Woman lasso of truth and wrap around each one of them and ask them, did you look at all 69 bank statements that you agreed to in the July board meeting? Did you? I mean, every line item, they all made sense to you? And there were some big dollar amounts. And so I wonder if that just gets rubber stamped because it's overwhelming. I'll look at those statements. And if there's 5 or 6 things on there that make no sense to me, I'm going to call up that school accountant and say, hey, what is this? And that way I'm going to at least take the time to understand, what we're voting for. There's definitely a need for more open discussion on that board.
So you're all about transparency?
Oh yeah. And I learned a long time ago that you don't delegate to a group. If you delegate to a group, you'll never get an answer back. But if you put one person in charge of the answer, you know who to go ask. When it's time to get the question answered, you know who to ask.
They have these subcommittees and only, 2 board members can attend. And if another board member, even if they attend and they're in the audience,
it's a quorum.
Right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
I understand dividing up into subcommittees. That's fine. Why can't I go sit in just like any other parent or citizen and not say anything and just attend? Why can't I do that? If there's some kind of gag order that I would follow, that I could just go listen and not be a part of the actual discussion. I don't see what's wrong with that.
Or why can't it be live streamed on YouTube like the meetings are?
Oh, okay. Even better. That would save me the trip. Yeah, I would be for that.
I mean, if you want transparency, that's transparency 100%.
Yeah, well, especially when you start talking about wage negotiations and this, how many people could tell you how much Boone County school system pays for liability insurance a year? That's a big number. I was quite surprised when I heard the number. But when you see the size of this budget of the school, then you're okay. That makes sense. But yeah, that should be open in public. Those discussions. Those if we do the Jeff Whittaker bid package plan where we award bids, we put stuff out for bids every other year, and divide it up. When we open those packages and read those out, that should be public. I don't see how anything should be hidden, other than when you do start talking about personnel and students.
What are your thoughts about kids being on Chromebooks?
That year I graduated in our high school, there was one classroom that had 3 or 4 computers in it. That was it. There wasn't computer. They didn't even have computers in the office, and we managed to learn. And if I hear a teacher say we can't teach kids without Chromebooks, I want them to show me the class that they took while they were going to college that taught them to be a good teacher using Chromebooks. If that's a college course where, all you need to do is learn how to, help a kid open up a Chromebook, turn it on, and, they start learning. So then I guess what's the teacher there for, right?
Right. And the challenge we have right now is that we have teachers that are quitting or going to other schools to get more money, and or they're retiring because they're tired of the nonsense. What's going on in the school system? What are your thoughts with that?
I hear that a lot. and I want to find out what the nonsense is. What is stopping a teacher from teaching children? What is that nonsense? I am a firm believer in removing any and all distractions from getting in the way between a teacher and a student and that exchange of knowledge. And no matter if it comes from a regulation, does that actually apply to that teacher in that school system? I mean, there's probably a lot of things that need to be looked at, but the one thing I would like to be able to have a relationship with the administration to where, teachers could honestly come up and say, this is a distraction. It's not helping me teach these kids. Can we find some way of removing that distraction? And see that distraction, I'm calling it distraction. You're calling it nonsense, right? But we're both calling a problem, by just a different word.
What are your thoughts on Panorama and all these surveys where they are asking kids very private information regarding their home life, regarding them, their feelings, and that's being all captured? What are your thoughts there, and how secure do you think that information really is?
How secure is that information? I have no idea. And I will find out. That's one thing I've got, because that's starting to listen to these school board meetings and hearing the discussion about that software. That was quite the eye opener, because where does the personal information stay? Is there a firewall that an outside company or an outside agency can't data mine into that private information? The names, the ages, the addresses, the phone numbers, that stuff that's, where you can use another table to tie it to that particular student. I understand database. That's what I do. I manage one for my company. If you told me that Panorama, where all private data stayed on a local table that was firewalled from any outside access, and nobody but the student and the parent could access that private information, and there was and then they answer questions but anonymously, but is that what's going on? I don't know the answer to that, but it should be. And if it's not, then we need to stop it.
And it kind of ties back to those RFID cards that the kids are using to get on and off the bus. They're saying that it's not attached.
I listened to those meetings. Nobody asked the questions I would ask. How powerful is that chip? Because there's some where you have to be within a few inches of the receiver, so nobody else in the area could actually pick up the information. If it was powerful enough to go out to a 5G tower, there you go. Where every 20,000 kids are, right?
Right.
You know what their patterns are. You could follow them, 24/7.
The surplus that we have so much of, but we can't pay our teachers the salary that they deserve, like our other neighboring counties are paying.
Why is that? Do you know why? Do you know why? That if I've got, it's right there on the internet. You can look at the Kenton County teachers salary scale and the Boone County teacher salary scale side by side. And there are certain years that you want to be a Boone County teacher, you'll make more money than Kenton County teachers. But then there are a bunch of other years where you'll make more money being a Kenton County teacher. Why is that?
It's because they don't want teachers. They want all these guidance counselors, and they want to get rid of teachers. And that's why the Chromebooks came into play. But what they do is the Chromebook is learning not only the kid, but the teacher, so that the teacher will be obsolete here soon. And they're just going to be e-learning instead of learning from the actual teacher themselves.
And I think this is something that the community is wondering. So during the COVID nonsense, what transpired was our legislators passed a law saying that it was now up to the school board, and they had to vote whether or not our kids had to wear masks at school. And now Gallatin County, they decided that it was up to the parents, because it's their children, whether or not they wanted their kids in masks or not. But Boone County schools decided that we were required to mask our kids, our children, not their children. They wanted our kids in masks every day. So as a school board member, if some virus X or some reason the government's pushing masking our kids, which we know was a huge mistake, would you vote to allow parents to dictate their children's health and whether or not they mask their own children?
Would I leave it up to the parent? Is that what you're saying?
Is that what you would vote for? Yeah, because the school board's the one who got the final say.
No, it would be totally up to the parent. I wore an N95 mask for 30 years, okay? I was tested every year for how effectively I could put it on my face. The masks were a joke, a total joke. And I would, like I said, I would agree to leave it completely up to the parents. All right, my email is jwhitaker, Whittaker, for the number 4, BCSB, Boone County School Board, at gmail.com. I have a Twitter account now. I've got a bunch of followers. I don't know who any of them are. That is J Whittaker for BCSB, the County School Board. And on Facebook, it's Jeffrey Whittaker for, actually the word for, FOR, BCSB, Kentucky. I'm going to need some help with door knocking. And I think if people watch this podcast, they'll be, and they decide they want to help me door knock. Just by watching this podcast, I think you can see how I feel about a lot of educational issues just from this podcast alone. So, I appreciate this. When I look back at how my behavior and what I thought back when I was 18, I would say I was probably more of a libertarian than I was conservative. But I mean, so you take a libertarian and you put a baby in his arms, and I think I walked out of that hospital a conservative right then and there. And I've been one since then. I want to hold on to this Judeo-Christian tradition that we're barely hanging on to by our fingertips. And I really want our students to know about our form of government. I know we hear a lot of people screaming democracy, democracy, but Ben Franklin told the people on the street back in the day, we have a constitutional republic if we can keep it. And I plan on trying to keep it. Kids need to know our history, the good and the bad. That indirect reason for why I want to be on the school board, of watching all the bad things happen around the country. I also want to make sure our kids are not taught to hate us. If you're on the internet much, you see the examples of that, and it's frightening. And I hope it's not going on in our school system. Vanessa and we have a granddaughter, and she means the world to us. And I will stand in the breach and take all the slings and arrows to keep anything from happening to that school system when she's there. And she should be in that school system for about 12 years. So I don't know if I'll last that long, but I hope to make it a better better system for her and the other 20,000 kids that she'll be going to school with.
You got my vote.
My vote too.
Okay. Well,
officially endorsed by the Jill and Stacy Show. When you go to vote in November and you hit that straight ticket, be sure you check Jeff Whittaker, because that is not a partisan race. You have to actually vote for Jeff.
Support Jeff Whittaker for school board. Don't vote straight ticket. You'll miss school board. Vote November 5th.